So you just touched on something, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who joins us live right here on WGY Mornings. I touched on this earlier, but my takeaway in this, everyone has their guests. You invited Sheriff Smith, for example, but the president has people up in the balcony that he's going to introduce periodically, and I think it was like 6 people. But none of those people, and all of them have a story, and for different reasons were there. But it all was sort of a negative thing where it's about police brutality in one case. It's about a mass shooting in another case. It's about a little girl who has cancer. It's about, Paul Pelosi getting attacked by a hammer. There was no uplifting. There was no ingenuity of the American people. There was no doctors who brought Damar Hamlin back to life. There was no Hispanic congresswoman who's the first in a generation to do, all of those things that we should be bragging about as America. Biden was dwelling on the negative stuff that's gone on, and I just felt like it created a sort of aura about the thing. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not. They missed the mark, and I will tell you, the guest it's always my favorite part of the State of the Union. No matter who the president is, I love hearing those uplifting stories of people across America that maybe you haven't heard their name before, but their stories are exceptional. I will tell you, the parents of the 10-month-old who had cancer, and she is now cancer-free at 4 years old. That story really resonated with me, but the other guests just did not resonate. I know people were excited to see Bono, and he has been a leader in terms of combating the global AIDS epidemic, and that was a program actually started by President George W. Bush. But the guests are always an amazing part of the State of the Union, and they definitely, even in their speech writing, they missed the mark on that. If you go back and watch, again, President Trump, President Obama, there's always these extraordinary stories from guests. So that was disappointing as well. I think this was a speech they sort of threw together, and it didn't have any cohesive idea. And it was just a weak State of the Union speech. If they think there's going to be a significant bump, which typically the president sees after the State of the Union speech, I don't think they're going to see it in public opinion.
And there's that old line, too, the man who talks a lot is the one who often doesn't have as much to say. This speech was an hour and 12 minutes, which I would argue is about 40 minutes too long for what this thing should be. And I revert back to that. The louder he talked and the longer he talked, the more I went, what time is it? And that's not good for him.
Mm-hmm. It is not good for him. I mean, when you have prime time, millions of Americans watching, it is a great opportunity for any elected official to deliver a message. And, he was really all over the place. And again, what was frustrating to me is the tone deafness. The economy is not in a strong situation right now. We're facing the highest inflation in over 40 years. People are seeing their wages get chipped away because of the increase of costs. The labor force participation rate is low. You talk to any small business, they're struggling to hire workers. Energy costs are up. Home heating bills are the highest they've been in a very, very long time. So, again, that tone deafness, I think that was probably the biggest flaw. But I will tell you, hosting, I was very excited to have my guest, Montgomery County Sheriff Jeff Smith. I always try to invite guests who serve our communities. It's a great opportunity for them, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as the sheriff said to me yesterday, to, see the Capitol, see the State of the Union, sit in the House gallery, meet the other guests. And he was so excited because there were lots of other county sheriffs, law enforcement officers that Republicans invited as guests. So he actually ran into another county sheriff from New York, from Yates County, who was Claudia Tenney's guest. So it was a great day for him and a real honor for me always to invite a constituent to experience the State of the Union.
One of the things that the president talked about was immigration and the border and he gave a lot of talk but didn't have too many solutions. But he didn't talk about the real problem, which you know all too well in your district now, because the New York City mayor, who is having migrants bust into his community, is now busing them into your district, dropping them off in Potsdam and on the Canadian border and telling them head to Canada because that's where you really want to go. That's what's happening right now, and the president is not dealing with that in any way.
Well, he's not dealing with it because his policies have caused it. We have border security legislation. House Republicans will put that on the House floor. Joe Biden has no intention of taking it up. The executive actions he has taken to wipe away the very effective border security policy we had, it's caused this border crisis. And, the fentanyl crisis as well, Joe Biden touched upon that. That's coming in across our southern border. So you have to secure the border to address the fentanyl, the overdose and the poisoning that's happening to young people across this country. And the Border Patrol officers, we support increasing funding for Border Patrol officers. There were $0 to increase funding to secure the border in both of the Democrats' appropriations bills and funding bills they did in the last 2 years. So it's lip service. And I always believe the American people are smart and they can see through, trying to brush this under the rug or pass the buck.
Without letting you go, I can't without talking chocolate milk quickly. The USDA wants to limit sugar consumption in schools. As part of what they want, there would be no chocolate milk allowed in school. You have vowed to put an end to that.
Absolutely. We support flavored milk in schools. This is not my first time engaging with big government liberals on this issue. For example, New York City Mayor Adams wanted to eliminate chocolate milk. We successfully fought that back and made him backtrack. The reality is kids need access to healthy dairy products, and this is a great way and the most effective way to give kids access to healthy dairy products. So we are fans of whole milk, flavored milk, and kids and parents should be able to make that choice, not big government. And I anticipate we will have success on promoting that. We have a farm bill this year, so we're in touch with lots of farmers in our district on these issues. But this is about healthy kids, and it's about parents having choices and kids having choices. It's not a partisan issue. You look at, you talk to families, they don't think the government should be determining, what kids should be able to eat.
That's the bottom line on that issue, right? Like, go fix the border. Don't worry about what my kids are eating. I'll handle that. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, always appreciate the time. There never is enough of it. Hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks, Doug.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, live right here on WGY Mornings.